idea of plan. Answering the question, how will I get there? How will I get there? With each of my objectives, but we're going to zero in on our passion project. And with plan, we're not really talking about a specific framework of tasks and something that is going to lock you in and hold you down and make you feel guilty when you don't stick to it. A plan is really simply a way forward strategy. Now, some objectives call for more planning than other objectives. If your objective is to have a good relationship with your mom and dad, it's hard to actually build a plan around that. But you can have a way forward strategy. You can have a way forward strategy. You can know what some of the things, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to establish a way forward strategy. Now, your way forward strategy for each of your objectives will be different depending on the objective. Sometimes it calls for more detail, less detail, whatever. That's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do it, I need to make sure that we're clear. Are there any questions on what a critical context is? Because this is what we're going to be making plans for. Are there any questions on what a critical context is? Okay, so a critical context are those things that in your life that you care the most about. So they may be roles. It could be that son or daughter or missionary or spouse or student or, so it could be a role that you play in your life. It could also be a high-level goal. It could be an aspiration. It could be a thing that you value the most. One of my critical contexts, for instance, is, okay, perfect, thanks, is physical health. Now, that's not a role, and it's also not really a high-level goal or an aspiration. It's just something I value because I understand that I've been given a body, and it's a stewardship I have for this body, and this body is this thing that's got to allow me to, empower me to do all the things I want to do in life. And so for me, that's a critical context. So it doesn't have to be a role or it's more of a category of something that you care about. And in our lives, there's lots of these critical contexts that we can choose from. And so we talk about how, our life is lived in pursuit of one objective after another. And we're sort of trying to find out, we talk about how life is like this game of hot or cold, and we're trying to sort of feel where the warmth is coming from and start to go that direction. And so we choose objectives on how to get there. In the same way, we're going to choose our way forward strategy that just moves us in the right direction. A lot of the reasons why people fail when they start to plan is because they want it to be a perfect execution. They want it to be a perfect plan. They want to make sure that all of the dots align and that all of the steps are clear and that the road is paved with gold and that there's people on the sidelines cheering them on. Like, it needs to be perfect before we move on. But that's not the best thing, because then what happens is you just wait, because that usually doesn't ever happen. So you never get started. The best way to create a way forward strategy is to keep it simple and to just make sure you're moving in the right direction. It's like Mark Twain says, the two most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out why, and everything else in between is just this journey. And we're all trying to ask the question, what are we born for? And the moment that we sort of figure out why we're here and where we're pursuing it, and our life dream becomes our life, like, this is a magic moment. Happiness is learning to love the journey, not just the destination. And so it's interesting because what you find as you study success and the science of success and successful people is they don't fall in love with the destination. The destination is the natural outcome of a journey that they're in love with. So, you don't fall in love with the top of the mountain. You fall in love with the experience of climbing and being out and breathing the air and seeing the sights and the exercise. And then you get the reward, which lies at the outcome, which lies at the end, and that's the destination. But if you hate climbing, you're not gonna, this is not gonna be a journey. Happiness isn't what lies at the other end. Happiness is what happens when you choose a journey that you love. and when the journey that you're on is in alignment with who you are. It's not the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit is happiness. And so many people spend their lives pursuing some end state of happiness, and they never get there because it's always a moving goalpost. Because once you achieve anything, it's no longer satisfying. You have to achieve the next thing. And so now happiness just moved down the road. And so you continue to move down the road. So when we choose our way forward strategy, it's critical that we choose a strategy that we love with. We look at it and we're like, I'm excited to do that. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be excited about every element, because there are sometimes we have to do things that we don't really like in order to get the outcome that we really want. But overall, we have to be able to look at our strategy, our plan, our journey, and say, I want that. I want to experience that, not just the outcome. And so the question is, we need to pick our North Star and start, and that's what our objective is. So now we're going to talk about how do we start building the plan or the way forward strategy. I'm getting there. So there was a best-selling book called Switch. This is probably one of my all-time favorite books that I have ever read. And in this book, it actually references another book by Jonathan Haidt, which is called The Happiness Hypothesis. And he found all, anyway, I could go on. But in this book, Switch, and he sort of elaborates on this metaphor that originated with Jonathan Haidt of the elephant and the rider. And so here's the metaphor that they use. The metaphor is this. Each of us are like an elephant and a rider. Now, the rider in us is our logical side. It's the part of us that is the rational thinker. It's the planner. It's it's our prefrontal cortex. It's the part of us that wants to be in control and to plan. And it's where it's our values and it's our logic, and it's like that's the rider. Now, each of us also has an elephant, which is our emotional side. Now, our emotional side is the elephant because it's the elephant that actually gets the work done. The rider doesn't do any work. The rider provides the direction, the guidance, the vision, the destination, but it's the elephant that does the work. So, in this metaphor, he talks about how the only way to truly get to your destination is that you have to account for both the elephant and the rider that represent you trying to get where you want to go in life. And it's funny because I like this analogy for a number of reasons, but let me ask you this. So in the analogy of the elephant and the rider being the rational self, the controller, the planner, and the elephant being the emotion. So what do you see happening in this metaphor, in this paradigm? What do you think? What do you see between the relationship between the elephant and the rider?
I don't know. I've never heard of an elephant. I don't know if an elephant listens to the rider or if it kind of just does its own thing. But I think what we're supposed to pull from it is that we're supposed to use that little bit of logic to kind of, I don't know.
So you allude to something that it is, I think, an important component. Having never ridden an elephant, you just assume that the elephant will do what the rider says.
Yeah.
Since there are elephants and elephant riders, and there are people who use elephants to go do work, the assumption is at least some of the time the elephant behaves.
Yeah.
But if the elephant decides not to behave, what's the rider going to do about it? What are you going to do? It's an elephant. Wayne, were you going to say something?
The rider has to take care of the elephant. The elephant's not just a slave that can be, beaten and used. There exists a symbiotic relationship between the two.
I like that. And the rider is our rational side. The rider is our planner. The rider is where our morals and our standards are. And it's the rider that takes care of the elephant so that the elephant is healthy, so that when the rider wants to get over there or perform this work, the elephant is ready. And in that same way, you know, it's up to us to take care of the parts of us that control our emotions, so that when it's time to go do the work, the elephant is ready. What else? What else do we learn from the elephant and the rider? Anything else from this metaphor? Has anybody ever tried to diet out of curiosity? I have tried to diet. Yeah. And have you ever been dieting? So, you know, your decision to diet is made by what? The rider, right? The rider is like, good grief, lose some weight, be healthy. So you decide to diet. And then, like, you walk into the kitchen and somebody went and made homemade chocolate chip cookies. How much control does the rider have in that moment? Like, you know, maybe your rider is really good and that elephant is really tame. But for me, especially when my wife makes her homemade sugar cookies, she makes these sugar like bars that's like just it's a pan of sugar with frosted sugar on top of it. Oh, and I like every time she makes them, with cold milk. And the rider inside the elephant inside of me is like, sorry, bud, but I don't care what you say. Like, I'm going this direction. And this is what happens in our lives is often the elephant takes over. And this is how addictions form. And this is how we find ourselves in moments where we're like, what was I thinking? And it's because we weren't. Our elephant took control. And so it's important that when we are creating a way forward strategy, we have to take three things into consideration according to this book by these two best-selling authors. Number one is that we have to direct the rider. The rider has to be properly oriented. The second thing is we have to motivate the elephant. And this is critical because like so many times, as you have probably experienced, you set a goal, have an objective, you feel the emotion and the enthusiasm and the like, let's get up and attack it, emotion of the moment. And then, 2 days later, you're like, yeah, I don't really care about it. The elephant has no energy, and it's the elephant that has to do the work. So understanding how to motivate the elephant is a critical part of our way forward strategy. Next is to shape the path, because it turns out if you want the elephant to walk in a certain direction and you're the rider, it pays to shape the path. Because if you shape the path, the elephant and the emotions inside of us, and this is a scientifically proven phenomenon, we will follow the path of least resistance. And so there are things we can do to shape the path. Honey, please don't make those sugar cookies. Shape the path, remove it. Or whatever it is in your life that you're trying to accomplish, part of your move forward strategy is to shape the path. And we talk about this more when we get to environment, which is how do we architect an environment that supports our pursuits. So when it comes to directing the rider, he says there's a few things that we should look at. The first are the bright spots. So the bright spots are, so what he finds is that the most successful people, programs, plans, businesses, whatever it is, are those that look not at what's broken, but focus and fixate on what's working and then replicate that. Because otherwise, we just spend all of our lives trying to fix what's broken, and that is hard work because it's broken. But if you focus, what he found, and shows this scientifically, is that if you focus on what's working and replicate what's working, now your investment, which we'll talk about, now your investment is in stuff that you know works. And the results are the natural outcome. So here's the question I would ask you. Take out your notebook and for just a minute, look back over your life and write down 3 periods of time in your life. They could be long periods, they could be short periods, but 3 periods of time in your life that you would call a bright spot in your life. So look back at your life and ask yourself, what are at least 3 times that constitute a bright spot? Like this, it was just working. This is called the bright spot analysis. 3 times in your life. All right. So now, for each one of those, write down what was it about that moment in your life that made it a bright spot. What was it about that moment? And for this one, we want to focus on behavior. What were the behaviors? What were the things that you were doing that caused it to be a bright spot? Now, once you've done your behavioral assessment of what are the things that I was doing, write down just anything else that might help you understand what made that a bright spot, that you would be able to learn from. It could be that there was something about the environment. It could be that there was something about the people who you were with. It could be something about your purpose or what you were, the work you were trying to do. Anything else about that bright spot that stands out that you might be able to learn from in knowing that if I want to create new bright spots in my life, this is what I can learn from. Anything else write down anything else that you might learn from that bright spot. All right, Elder Hatch, tell us about one of your bright spots.
One of my bright spots kind of going on right now with my mission, and I got a scholarship yesterday to UFC, and everything's just coming together.
Wow. So as you look at that bright spot and you do the behavioral analysis, what are the behaviors that identify this as a bright spot in your life? What are the things that you're doing that would cause this to be a bright spot?
Working hard with applying for scholarships, and basically like my whole life, everything I've done in my life coming together.
Yeah. This is a culminating moment where the work of your lifetime is finally coming together. You're getting the rewards from a lot of work. So one of the things that you learn from that is that is valuable, because there will be times in your life where you will pay to remember that hard work creates rich living. And that's good to remember, because there are moments in life where we are just so immersed in the hard work where we're like, is it ever going to be worth it? And you just don't know. But when you have done your bright spot analysis, you look back and you're like, wow, every single time I look at a bright spot in my life, that one of the common characteristics is that I had to work to get there. And it paid off. And in that culminating moment, I was like, I remember that for the rest of my life. So that's a great one. Anything else about that now as a bright spot that would help you learn how to architect a bright spot in the future, besides the idea, which I believe in, of hard work?
Passion, having a passion for something.
Yes, I absolutely believe that. Having a passion for something and pursuing your passion. So for you, and I think some of these bright spots, some bright spots actually are individualistic. You know, so like a designer might have a bright spot, you know, when they are actively in the act of creation. But some of these that you've mentioned, hard work, pursuing your purpose or pursuing your passion, you know, pursuing something you're passionate about, that is another sort of broad one. Another one is, you know, do you feel like any of this is because you feel like right now in this moment, your life is being lived in alignment with who you are?
Yeah.
Your values, your beliefs, it's like your life, like everything you're doing right now is in alignment, and that feels really good. The things you believe and who you know you are and where you know you are supposed to be going and what you should be doing, like those moments when your life comes into alignment to pursuing those things, those are bright spots. What do you have? What is a bright spot in as you look back?
One of the bright spots I picked was senior year of wrestling.
Yeah. Okay, what made that a bright spot?
I think it was just hard work,
Hard
energy,
work.
and passion.
Hard work, what, and passion?
Energy and passion.
Energy and passion. It's funny because so every cohort where I teach this, I ask these questions about, okay, what characterized your bright spot? I can't tell you how often these things come up. Hard work, energy, and passion. Hard work, energy, and passion, and purpose. This is why it's so important for us to know who we are and where we're going, to have identified our purpose, and to have the ability to motivate the elephant to move forward, to do the hard work, because it does pay off. So the next thing is, he talks about for directing the rider, is that the rider has to have a clear destination. The rider has to be able to see where. It's not the elephant's job to see where he's going. It's the rider's job. The elephant's job is to do the work. The elephant's job is to pull the load and walk the distance and to get to the destination. The rider's job is to see the destination clearly. So, I need to back. So now in your notepad, write down your passion project. What is the thing that you are going to do first that you are going to create a plan for, a move forward strategy for, that will generate momentum in your life? First of all, identify what is your passion project. I'll just give you a couple minutes. You should, most of you I think already know that, but just in case. This will be the one thing that you're going to put some effort into immediately to start generating momentum. And once you have that, create the connections between what you learned from your bright spot analysis to your passion project. How did what you learn about your bright spot analysis, How would it change your way or impact your way forward strategy to your passion project? Write that down. How will what you learned about your bright spot analysis impact your way forward strategy to your passion project? Next, clarify the destination. So for your passion project, the writer has to be able to see clearly where they're going and what they're trying to accomplish. They have to be able to know exactly what success looks like. So try to articulate what you would describe success as for your passion project. What does success look like? What would it take for you to look back at this and say that was a bright spot? Describe in as great of detail as is possible what success looks like for this passion project. And then finally, list a few key results that would indicate you've made it. 1 or 2 or maybe 3 key results. These are the outcomes. They're the results of having gotten there. It could be that you find your results from describing the destination, your description of what success looks like. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes the way we capture what success looks like is more of an emotional statement. And that's fantastic because we want emotion to be imbued in our description of that success. But it's fundamentally important that we identify when we're there, because otherwise what ends up happening is we never feel like we often never feel like we get there. So what are the key results or outcomes that would indicate you've arrived? All right, let's do one more, and then we will share a little bit and see where we're at. The fourth component on directing the rider is that it's up to the rider to shape the path. Now, there's lots of ways that we can shape the path, but one of the most important and fundamental ways is to simply simplify the path. Often what happens is we tend to want to choose I don't know why this is, but we tend to overcomplicate things. We tend to overcomplicate the journey. We try to do too much on the way. But when you study success, what you find is that success is often the disciplined pursuit of simplicity. There's a book I love recently out called Essentialism by Gregory McEwen. And it's called Essentialism, the Disciplined Pursuit of Less. And what he finds is that happiness and success are both outcomes of reducing our lives down to the very, very, very bare essentials. When you do that, which are what I call critical context, then all of a sudden you have so much more to invest in those things that you care about. And now you're living your life doing the things you love the most. But we tend to over-encumber our path, unnecessarily over-encumber our path. So next on your list, try to write down the things that you think might get in your way, or that you might want, that you might feel like overcomplicate that journey. We deliberately start with the key indicators of success, the key outcomes, because that helps us simplify. So as you create your plan, it's important that you look at those key outcomes and you ask yourself, I said these were my key outcomes. Will this lead to a key outcome, or does it serve some other purpose? So try to figure out try to write down for your specific passion project the things that might be ancillary, the things that might be just out of alignment, associated and related, but not directly on the path. Does that make sense? Yeah? You're doing what we will go through this more when we get to space, but we're doing what we call a barrier assessment. This is a rudimentary version of it, where we're trying to figure out what are the things that we think might get in our way, so that when we're making our plan, we can simply decide to go around those things instead of over those obstacles. So what's going to get in your way? And how can you simplify that journey? All right, so now let's talk about motivating the elephant. So when it comes to motivating the elephant, we're talking really about the 16 elements. So the 16 elements originally originated from this study of what does it take to emotionally engage someone in an effort, in a cause, in a work to be done, in a project. And so the 16 elements offer this insight on how do we motivate the elephant. So in order to do that, we are going to go through a set of questions. But before we do, can anybody share what their passion project is? Anybody willing to share passion project? Bishop, do you have a passion project?
I have worked on things, but I haven't put the detail into everything that I need to be doing. I threw tonight. It was just retire. I really want to be able to retire and do some things with my retirement, like serve a mission and other things like that. So, but that I can't see as my exact passion project that I'm working on exactly.
That is a great, so retirement is a long-term objective. And, when you get old like us, it's important still to have passion projects, things that we're anxiously engaged in now. But those long-term objectives, like making retirement happen because we want to serve mission, we want to do these long-term things, they can provide our lives with amazing, with purpose. And that's so important, because it's when we live a life without purpose that we find that there's no happiness, because happiness is the journey. How about Elder Hatch? I love calling you Elder Hatch. Am I the first one to call you Elder Hatch, by the way?
Yeah.
Sweet. How about you? What's your passion project?
To make it on a mission.
Perfect one. That's a perfect passion project, because it's time bound. It's like what? That's 4 months ish away.
Six.
Yeah, it's 6. Wait.
April, May, July.
Whoa.
4 months.
Crazy. So it's 4 months away, and it's like, wow. And during this period of time, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to go out in your current state, which, to be frank, probably is awesome. I've only known you a little bit, but you seem way more prepared than a lot of missionaries that I've met. And you could go out like that. Or you could identify the person you want to be when you go out in 6 months, 4 months, and you can create a plan on how you're going to become that person. So when you go out, you make those 2 years the most incredible 2 years of your life that are always and forever going to be a bright spot that you look back on and that shine a light on the rest of your life. You have the opportunity in these 4 months to change the next 2 years, to set the stage for the next 2 years. So that's a perfect passion project. I love it. What's your passion project? Do you have one?
Mine goes along finding out what I want to do for a career.
Career. That is a great. Find your purpose. Well, find more than your purpose. Find your immediate, what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. What was your purpose statement again? It was teach. No?
Help others.
Help.
Yeah, so
it was service oriented.
Yeah,
it was others oriented.
Improve the lives of others through my time, talents, and resources.
Yeah, improving the lives of others. That can be broad. Like it still gives you, you know, it still gives you quite a bit of wiggle room.
Mm-hmm.
So now the plan that you're going to put into place is, how do I go figure this out?
Yeah.
And first of all, thank you for being someone who is willing to be deliberate about figuring that out now, instead of what so often happens is people just, they float and they don't try to figure it out. And because they don't try to figure it out, then they just, like, 4 years goes by, 5 years goes by, a decade goes, and it's like, what are you doing and where are you going? Like, go figure it out. So that's exciting. Okay, how about you, Wayne? Do you have a passion project?
I don't really. Right now, I'm a big part of my life is trying to improve my health. I get migraines all the time.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that, which is not fun. Um, so, health-related passion projects tend to be some of the very best because you can start to see immediate results. And so, health-related passion projects are great for demonstrating early momentum. And it's interesting because when you bring, yeah.
2 years ago, 4 years ago, I started a health-related passion project. Every year I would earn what's called the Pheidippides Award, which requires me to run a certain number of races, 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons, whatever. And it's given to runners over the age of 40. So I would earn these. Last year would have been my fifth one, except I got gout in my knee and couldn't walk for quite some time. So I'd like to be able to get back to running. That'd be a good short-term passion project.
Yeah, that's awesome. How amazing. Wow, last year would have been the 5th year.
Thank
So
you
that
for
is
letting
a
me talk that.
great passion project to get back in and get year 5. So we're going to talk now about how to adequately incentivize the elephant inside us all. Okay, question number 1. So get out your notepads, get ready. So now, for your passion project, the question to ask yourself, so we're starting with identity. We're going to go breeze through the 16 elements, asking only one question per element. For identity, well, maybe 2 questions. What are the greatest strengths you have to offer in pursuit of this specific passion project? Remember, when you focus on your strengths, you increase your likelihood to succeed. What are the strengths you have to offer? And how do you bring those to the front? And if, as I ask a question, if you have a question on the question, let me know so that we can talk about it. So what are the greatest strengths you have to offer that you can apply to this passion project? Okay, next question. Oh, we did this one. What does success look like? That's clarifying the destination, so we've got that one. Next question. Oh, we did this one too. This was the bright spot analysis. What behaviors are critical? Well, it's kind of different. The bright spot analysis was what behaviors in the past led to that being a bright spot. So it's a different question. On this question, ask yourself, so as you look at your passion project and you look at the desired outcomes or the key results, what behaviors are critical to success? It could be starting a daily exercise regimen. It could be changing the level of investment in my scripture reading. It could be talking, browsing the course catalog for course descriptions that seem to really resonate with me, that might indicate that this is a career direction. For a financial, it could be I need to make sure that maybe I need to change the level, the amount I'm investing on a paycheck by paycheck basis, or I need to reevaluate the diversity of my portfolio. It's the behaviors. We want to focus on the behaviors that will lead to the outcomes we seek. Next, I'll wait just a second. I'll move on too soon. Next is, what are your milestones and next steps? In other words, if you look at your passion project, how can you break it up into maybe 2 or 3 milestones? Now, it could be that you can't answer this question now. This takes a little bit more. Often you're deconstructing the pursuit of your objective into milestones and next steps. It takes a little while. If it's preparing for my mission, then the question would be, okay, how do I break that up? It's the idea that when I was on my mission, I had a companion who was in the military, and he described how at boot camp they had all these grunts come in, and there was this these massive posts that were like this wide. They're like these tree trunks, and there's 4 of them in this big square about the size of this room, and they all go up and they meet, and it's like a big triangle, except it's 4-sided triangle. And there's rungs attaching all of them as they go up. Now, at the beginning, these rungs are small, nice stepped rungs, and they're spaced evenly and just the right distance apart. But the higher you get, the farther apart those rungs are. And he's like, it was actually terrifying. And many people couldn't complete the exercise because when you get to the top, towards the top, you're like standing on the side and you're wrapping your arm around a pole, and you're having to reach one arm up over this pole, and being as high as you are and risking life and limb, you have to decide to let go and like reach up and try to climb up over the top of it. And he's like, a lot of people can't. And I love that analogy, because what happens is, when we haven't deconstructed our objective or our way forward strategy into milestones and next steps, then we tend to not make any progress at all, because all we're doing is we just have a definition of where we're going, not a definition of how we're going to get there. So the next part is to deconstruct into milestones and next steps. And at least the milestones need to be time-bound milestones. So if you are like, well, I want to have my career, I want to have the broad strokes of my career identified before the start of the next semester, like just hypothetically, then that means I need to, by this date I'm going to do X, and by this date I'm going to do X. And so you have some milestones. And then you identify what are the next steps within each milestone. By deconstructing the big project into a series of smaller projects, you increase the likelihood of success. We did the barrier assessment. So this is the SCORE assessment. The SCORE assessment is how do you know if it's working or if you're making progress. If you don't have a way of measuring progress, chances are the elephant will lose steam because the elephant wants to see that it's moving forward. So how are you going to know you're measuring progress? This is easier for an objective like Wayne's because it's easier to measure. But when it's or a financial objective, or when it's but it's harder for like a career definition like that. How do you measure progress? I don't know. So the progress doesn't necessarily have to be outcomes. It could be completing activities. I'm going to identify the 13 activities that I think are going to have the highest chance of leading me to my outcome, and by checking those things off, that's how I measure progress. So you just have to have a way of measuring progress, because the science shows when you don't have a way of keeping score or measuring progress, you ultimately lose energy. Next is, what can I do that will show early progress? And we talked about the diets. So as you are thinking about your milestones and your next steps and your way forward strategy, when you're building out this plan, put something up front that will be the strongest indicator that you are moving forward, something that will show momentum. It could be I'm going to memorize a scripture a day for a week so that at the end of the week I've got 7 scriptures memorized, or whatever it is. Like something where you can look back and you're like, yes, progress. All right, now this one I absolutely love. Of course, on each of these there's an entire workshop for that if you continue the journey, you'll get all of the color around these. Investment is this. In your plan, if you really want to succeed, then you got to put some skin in the game. You got to put something on the line. So what are you going to put on the line? It was interesting. Oh, we don't have time. There's so much to this, but find something you can put on the line. It could be that you're just going to choose to invest a dollar amount. It could be that you're going to invest by setting your objective and sharing it with a certain number of people so that they hold you accountable, and now your identity is your investment. It's your credibility, it's an investment. It could be that you're going to create a time box, an allocation of time, and that's how you're going to guarantee that you're invested. But you have to put something on the line. You have to choose to invest and know what and how you're going to invest. Okay, so then growth. In what ways will I need to grow in order to be successful, and how can I fuel that growth? That's a hard one for you. I mean, it's kind of ambiguous on your. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to kind of skip through these, and I'll send you them so that you can see them. Meaning is that when we tend to not. We have difficulty sustaining momentum to something to work we don't find meaningful. So, hopefully your passion project is meaningful, in which case the work you do within the pursuit of your passion project will be meaningful. But you have to connect those dots, because often we're doing work that matters and that is important, but we lose sight of its meaning because we get lost in the minutia of the day-to-day activities. And we stop connecting that. And so if you know your passion project is meaningful, then the question to ask yourself is, how do I ensure that I don't lose sight of that meaning? Because everybody does this. They set an objective. I'm going to be more healthy. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to save money. I'm going to whatever it is. And they're like, yeah, that's meaningful. But then you just get lost in the pursuit of it. And and you stop. So the question is, how are you going to maintain perspective of the meaningfulness of your pursuits? What personal value, intrinsic or extrinsic, do I expect? In other words, how is this going to help you? What is your personal outcome from this going to be? This is in the rewards category, this orange category, which again is, in order to sustain long-term momentum, we have to get something from it. So the question is, what, for your passion project, what value will this have in your life? And if it doesn't, if you have a hard time articulating it, you might need to revise your passion project. The pursuit of your passion project should create something that is meaningful and valuable in your life. Next is leadership. Within the context of your passion project, who is someone you can go to if you get stuck? And relationship is, who can you involve in your journey? And how can you involve them? When we involve others in our journey is more enjoyable, and we're more likely to see it through. Two more, environment is, how can you modify your environment to fuel success? And finally, renewal, how will you maintain balance in the pursuit of your passion project? Because often what happens is we get so passionate that we overinvest, and then the rest of our lives fall out of balance. So I'll forward you these questions so that you can see them, and your assignment is to now go and look, and for your passion project, create your milestones and your next steps. Then go through for those 16 elements and create your plan on how to motivate the elephant. And then finally, put it in writing. And I would invite you and encourage you to share that plan with someone else, an accountability partner. When you share your objective and your plan with someone else and invite them to hold you accountable, the chances of you succeeding go up, because now your identity is on the line. So create your plan, which constitutes your milestones and next steps, and how to account for the 16 elements. Put that in writing and share it with someone. That is your homework. Now, for those of you who are completing the journey today, I would just end with this. Recognize that there is a light. There is light within you. There is value. There is power. There is strength. The world needs you to let that light out. The world needs that magic that is inside of you. And you are stronger than you realize. You're stronger than you know. You have the ability, so don't be afraid to sort of elevate the objective that you're pursuing. Because often we tend to create objectives that are too easily reached, and they don't result in growth, and they lead to a shortchanging of ourselves and others of the value that we're capable of achieving. You are stronger than you know, so reach high. And then finally, choose to move forward instead of moving backwards or staying where you are. Choose to continually move forward. The world needs people who are disciplined in their pursuit of excellence and achievement. So choose to move forward because people need you. So thanks for being here. If you have questions, please let me know. Otherwise, what I'll do is I will send you the slides, which have and the recordings, so that you have access to all of the recordings for this Orient set. And otherwise, if you are here, if you are continuing the journey to execute, you'll also get an email which will tell you when the next Execute series starts up. And in Execute, we talk about in Execute we start going into momentum and score and alignment And it's really about how to make your plan happen. And we'll go from there. All right, thanks, guys.